Nathan Guy. The Honourable Nathan.
Mr Chair, it's great to be able to talk about the annual appropriation for the Ministry for Primary Industries for 2013-14. Can I acknowledge the Primary Production Chair, Ian McKelvey? Can I acknowledge the Minister for Food Safety, Joe Goodhue, also Associate Minister for Primary Industries? And can I take a special moment to acknowledge all of the Primary Production Select Committee, who by and large do a lot of wonderful work across the whole of the Parliament. This is a great time to be in front and leading primary industries. I know that there is a challenge in the dairy industry, and that's been well talked about right now, where we have a very volatile market, particularly when we look at what's happening with the 4 big global milk regions awash with milk. We have product that's banned out of from the European Union into Russia, looking for a new home. We have China inventory stocks reducing, and hopefully soon they'll be re-entering the market. I was interested to see that Westland have downscaled their payout for this season, and we're waiting to see what Fonterra do towards the end of May, and also everyone's interested in looking into the next season and what that might bring. I think we are going to be in a period of some volatility for some months to come. But we have been here before. The average price for milk solids is $5.25 over 15 years. About 2004, 5 and 06, it got down to very low $4. So farmers are resilient. They have been here before. They will get through this. That is why the government is investing in primary growth partnership. That is why we are working with industry right across the value chain to lift performance inside the farm gate. And Mr O'Connor always interjects. He hates primary growth partnership. He didn't acknowledge NZIER report that they did, an independent report that says primary growth partnership by 2025 could return $6.4 billion. And if you add on the stretch aspirational targets, could be up to $11.1 billion. And also what's interesting for Mr O'Connor is he doesn't want to acknowledge any of the benefits of primary growth partnership, what they're delivering already. Close to Mr O'Connor's electorate is the steep land harvester. This is an amazing machine developed in Nelson, now being sold offshore, reducing health and safety events and fatalities in our forestry industry, working on steep land slopes, making a difference. Mr O'Connor doesn't want to acknowledge that. I was down very close to his local electorate the other day celebrating an investment that we've made in Spat, New Zealand for green mussels. This is going to make a significant difference for the seafood industry. Right now they have to go up into Northland and collect spat that's washed up on shore. It's like the dairy industry, whereby this is going to allow the industry to be able to select good breeding mussels indoors, very close to Nelson. We should be celebrating primary growth partnership. And yet, Damien O'Connor and others stand up and say the government's not doing enough. Just the other day, we announced $7.8 million in Sustainable Farming Fund, 29 projects up and down the country, working at the grassroots, making a difference in environmental management, making a difference in supporting the dairy industry, the beef industry, horticulture industry. We are doing a lot, and yet our opponents say that we aren't doing enough, and I can't believe that. They don't stand up and acknowledge the investment that government is making with industry. Also, when we refer back to the appropriation annual review for the primary industries, it was interesting when I had my officials in front of the Select Committee spend a lot of time talking about biosecurity. Biosecurity is my #1 priority and will continue to be. And it's interesting when you have a look at the comments from the Select Committee when my officials were there. They were talking about how MPI are investing more in biosecurity. A bigger budget than when National came into office. More people, 130 frontline quarantine inspectors working. Dog detector teams gone from 26 to 40 in the last couple of years. As you have seen, not you, Mr Speaker, Mr Chair, but as the House has seen and the New Zealand public have seen, MPI can stand up a very quick response when we do have an incursion like we have had in the case of Queensland fruit fly and grey lynn. This has been a good response. We've put a lot of resource into this, and I acknowledge the people of grey lynn in Auckland and those properties who have intensive surveillance happening on there. I'm very confident that we can eradicate the small localised population in grey lynn. Very confident. We've done it before with Mediterranean fruit fly in 1994, and we'll do it again now. What I've also instigated in the last couple of weeks is a biosecurity strategy review looking out to 2025. Mr Prosser rightly acknowledged that and said it's timely to have a look at it. The reason it's timely to have a look is we've got government industry agreements on board, 4 signatories, some of those signatories working with MPI on preparedness and response, sitting around the response table dealing with the Queensland fruit fly and grey lynn. We're also seeing an increase in passenger numbers. We're also seeing an increase in trade volumes. It's appropriate now that we do the review and we reach out to industry, we reach out to the New Zealand public, we reach out to the regional councils, we reach out to the universities, and we reach out to our international trading partners to make sure that we get a strategy that's going to look forward to 2025. Also, what's been very important to acknowledge in the last 12 months over this period is we've come through a couple of significant events, and they are droughts. And we've had quite a significant one on the east coast of the South Island. And I was down talking to about 450 farmers in North Canterbury recently. And gosh, it's been dry down there. And nearly every farmer that came up and talked to me talked about the value of water storage, the value of storing water and utilising it in those summer months. And in the government's view, we don't do enough in storing water. We only collect and store about 2% of the rain that falls in this country. The rest of it heads out to sea. It's not that we have a shortage of water in this country, it just doesn't rain at the right place and the right time. That's why we've set up Irrigation Acceleration Fund. $28 million has been invested in about 18 different projects in Canterbury, in Hawke's Bay, in the Manawatu, in Northland and in other areas to get investment ready to move up into the Crown Irrigation Investment Fund. We know also that water storage is hugely important for the environment. We know it takes the pressure off groundwater aquifers. Just look at the Opua Dam that had to close down for a period of time this summer, where we had fish and game out there collecting and rescuing fish species from nearby streams, rivers and creeks that would have otherwise died because they were dry. And where were they releasing these fish? Into the Opihi River that's fed by the Opua. Also, we have water coming from the Opua Dam into the Timaru City. So we have social benefits from water storage, we have environmental benefits, and let's not forget about the economic benefits. 500 odd jobs in that region created from the Opua water storage, and there are numerous other examples as well. Another investment that the government is making in the environment is dealing with animal emissions. And it's great that we can acknowledge New Zealand scientists who have been working hard on trying to come up with technological advances in livestock that's going to reduce methane emissions. They just had a conference earlier this week in Palmerston North where they're celebrating the success, non-toxic compounds, where they've been working a long time, changing methane emissions from livestock. And hopefully in 5 years or beyond, they might be at a point where they can commercialise this product. They've done a huge amount of trials, and early indications from these trials is they believe they can reduce methane emissions in livestock, particularly in sheep and cattle, from 30% as a minimum up to 90%. The government is making a significant investment in the Global Research Alliance, working closely with our New Zealand scientists and also the other 45 countries around the world that are partnering with us. So we should acknowledge the investment that the government is making. through Primary Growth Partnership, through the Sustainable Farming Fund, through Global Research Alliance, and other areas where we're investing as well. Thank you.
Chair.